Tales of Estolia. Written by Sashina Kerfman. Volume 1. The Promise of Zacharias. Part 6. Prophecy. Chapter 4. Abduction.
Throughout Estolian history, there have been times when the heir apparent has abducted his future Kaylee when faced with seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Abduction was the most common method whereby the woman in question was brought to Estolia's fair shores. On the face of it, one might consider this practice as abhorrent as many other atrocities throughout history. However, each woman who has been abducted is given a choice. No woman can be forced to remain in Estolia or with a specific man against their will. It is utterly impossible. Any woman kept under duress could quite easily withhold their approval of the union, and the man so rejected would waste away until death is a welcome release from the torment of our waking world. This is the central element to our marriage ceremony. Addio of Marriage. Preface.
She looked around curiously. It did not look like any airline she had ever frequented. The padded seats and other furniture looked more like luxury furnishings in a living room. There were no other passengers.
I thought you said they began boarding already.
They were ready to have us board. Estolian Airlines is a convenient name for the small fleet of private jets used by the government of Estolia for matters of state.
The door to the jet was secured and it began to back up. She was kept from asking the next question dancing in her mind by an announcement over the intercom.
Molimo zakopčajte sigurnosne pojaseve. Kad poletimo, poslužit ćemo osvježenje, a nešto kasnije ćemo pojesti obrok.
She listened in fascination to the lyrical foreign language, the fluid symmetry of consonants and vowels, and the inflections on different syllables. She recognized the influence of the language on Nico's exquisite accent. Once the announcement was over, Nico said,
I have been informed we will be stopping twice to refuel, but it is anticipated we will land before dawn in Estolia.
Have you abducted me?
She blurted out.
That is an interesting question, mostly because the answer is not clear. I could answer your question with perfect honesty by saying you have not been abducted, but I could also say I have abducted you.
Before she could respond to that strange statement, the intercom came alive again, this time in English.
We are next in line for takeoff. Please buckle your seatbelts. Once airborne, we will be serving refreshments, and a little later, we will have a meal. Flying time to Estolia is approximately 11 hours, with an anticipated arrival to coincide with sunrise at the Amador Airport.
Shortly after the announcement, the airplane took off. Kenzie looked at Nico, seeing pleasure and satisfaction on his face. She sensed that this was his short-term objective, to have her completely within his power. Once the airplane was no longer climbing, she was served a glass of wine. Only then did she have the chance to question Nico's assertion.
In what way have I not been abducted?
He sipped at his golden wine and seemed to be considering his answer.
When you were given the courtesy of an invitation that you chose to accept, and you came aboard of your own free will, you could hardly be considered the victim of abduction. In addition, there are no shackles that hold you captive. Nobody will make you do anything you sincerely object to doing. You will not come to any harm while on this airplane or within my country. You will be an honored guest at all times.
While he spoke, his eyes met hers and delivered an equivalent message of sincerity. She sensed some undercurrents, but she believed she was safe.
If all that is true, then how have you abducted me?
If I wish it, I could keep you in Estolia indefinitely.
And is that your wish, Nico, to keep me indefinitely?
Kenzie O'Rourke, you knew before you came aboard this airplane that I want the chance to convince you to marry me. It is my hope that you will marry me and remain with me forever in Estolia.
Their conversation became more general after that when they were brought a meal. Shortly afterwards, the 2 rainbow drinks, along with 3 glasses of wine, had Kenzie drifting off to sleep. Nico thought about his brother. Leon was behind him fully in his semi-abduction of the colorful woman. He had no doubt that she would marry him. It would be impossible for the future keeper to meet the woman who was meant to keep his soul and have her reject him. No. Fate, the promise of Zacharias, and pure chemistry dictated that this woman was the one woman who would keep his soul, complete him, and hand to him the final mantle of power that he could not obtain without her. In his case, becoming the last resort was only a matter of helping Leon find Callista Tyr, and then making sure his brother fulfilled Estolian law by wedding her no more than 7 days after bedding her. Nico would gratefully retire the sash of office to its normal location in the Mount Estoliana temple, once his firstborn child received his birth blessing. It would adorn the statue of Zacharias in his office until a year before Leon's son, Tiernan, turned 30. What would he learn in the days ahead about this woman who called herself a fat circus freak? His heart flipped when he saw the circle of untanned flesh on her left ring finger. Could the aura be mistaken? Had some other man deprived him of his Kaylee? Uncle Zeke would be surprised by how flamboyant this woman was. Certainly, she was nothing like the women he dated in college. Yes, Kenzie would surprise his relatives. But appearances were unimportant when compared to the character and soul within, and on that score, he had no doubts about her. He felt the subtle push from deity, and knew that Kenzie would never be his if he seduced her without telling her everything she needed to know beforehand. He could never take any woman without consent, but just having her agree to intimacy was not enough. She had to know what she was agreeing to. Her recent breakup left her soul slightly bruised, but he had no doubts that she was a strong woman, with a powerful sense of self. No, as keeper, his Kaylee needed to understand who she was marrying. He had a week to acquaint her with the most important aspects of Estolian religion, custom, and law. A week to gain her heart. A week before he would claim everything that she was, inside and out. A week before the most pivotal moment of his life, when his soul would find its home, where it would forever be comforted, cared for, and kept securely. The blessings bestowed upon his people, when they were willing to keep the promise of Zacharias, were impossible to enumerate. He looked at Kenzie. He had absolutely no doubts about her. He hoped he would be able to convince her as soon as possible. She might not have really understood what he meant when they joked about abduction, but he was determined that she would never leave Estolia except by his side, as his wife.